Hi guys, this is another round of Getting to Know POH Facebook Live. I'm hanging around Aleise and I'm going to be interviewing these guys here today. We've got with us Deuce, who is our Sergeant in Arms with POH, and Rabbit, who is Prospect Rabbit. And we're going to interview, I'm going to ask each of them a couple of questions and then both of them together. This beautiful, happy couple that we love, and we're going to get to know them a little. So let's start it off with asking Deuce a couple of questions. So what would you say God has revealed to you about yourself?
Well, the main thing that jumps out at me with that question is one of my character defects that I work with is being a people pleaser. And I never really thought that that was a bad thing, because I looked at it like I got joy off of making other people happy. But then when you really get to the depth of it, the real aspect of being a people pleaser is wanting to get approval from those that are around you. And on the surface, it doesn't seem like that's a bad thing, but what the Lord revealed to me is when I compromise my integrity or my relationship with Him to gain that approval, then it becomes a negative thing in my life. And I guess the biggest example is anybody that knows me knows that I'm kind of love the limelight, center of attention, the one that draws everybody to me. But when I walk up to a table and tell the inappropriate joke to seek the approval of the people at the table, instead of letting God be magnified and glorified in my life and using that to seek their approval or to show them where I'm at, then it's compromised my relationship with Him. So what on the surface seems like it's not such a bad thing can be a bad thing. And that's something that God revealed to me over the past year, probably more so than in the past. You know, I've read a lot of scripture where it says, are you ready to please man or God? And He gave me that revelation. And then the other biggest revelation He gave me was through a devotional by Oswald Chamber called My Utmost for His Highest, and where it talks about how worry, because that's my other biggest character defect that I struggle with, is worry, and how worry is really not grounded in doubt or lack of faith, but in selfishness. Mm-hmm. And I never realized it until I read that devotional, and the Spirit spoke to me that worry isn't that we don't think God will work our problem out. We don't think He'll work it out in the way we want it to. I don't know how many court dates that I paced the floor back and forth, oh Lord, work this out. But it wasn't really that I didn't think He'd work it out. I just didn't know if He'd work it out in the way I wanted to. Walk out the door free and clear. And sometimes that was the case, and sometimes it wasn't, you know, by God's plan. Some of the best restoration I received was while I was incarcerated, but it wasn't what my desire was at the time for it to happen, but it worked out. So I would say that's the two things He's revealed to me.
Book for anyone to read. Highly recommend that. I've read it too, and it's
a great book.
And you're so right on there. Worry gets you nowhere. It only causes problems for yourself. Right. It doesn't solve the problem. Only God can help you with that.
Sick to your stomach, makes your hair fall out, turn gray, all kinds of bad stuff.
Definitely. So what is the Bible verse that has been most meaningful to you in your life?
Well, it's a verse that I really stand on, and it's in Titus chapter 2, verse 14. And it says, Jesus came to give His life that we could be redeemed from all our lawless deeds, sanctified, set apart as His own special people, zealous for good works. And the reason that is so meaningful to me is about 10 years ago, I was at home on house arrest, waiting to go to a rehab, and I was under the jurisdiction of a judge whose dad had sent me to prison 3 times. She sent me to prison twice, had a DA that was unyielding. And by the grace and mercy of God, they had agreed to send me to a 1-year faith-based rehab when I was already a statistic in the system. I'd already been in so many times that by that time they usually wash their hands of you. And the New King James is the only version that says lawless deeds. But I was sitting on my mom's porch, reading my Bible one morning, and that verse just jumped out at me, that Jesus gave his life that I could be redeemed from all my lawless deeds. Everything that I've done in the past, and I got an extensive criminal history, that God uses for his testament right now. I don't want to glorify my past without it showing that just what God's brought me from. But where it said that he gave his life that we could be redeemed from all our lawless deeds, sanctified, set apart as his own special people, zealous for good works. And I read that, and it's been locked in my mind ever since. And I can't say I've walked perfectly in those good deeds. Since then, I've had a couple of stumbles, but I know I try and turn every stumbling block into a stepping stone to move closer to the Lord. Otherwise, the enemy's got me down, and that's not what we're called to be.
Absolutely. And one perfect thing that you said right there was that they normally give up on you. The people give up on you, but God will never give up on you. That's one thing
true.
to always hold true to. So
That's true.
So beautiful there that was in what you had to say. Prospect Rabbit, how does knowing Jesus now compare to your previous childhood or adolescence faith?
Well, I sought out a church for the first time when I was 7 years old. I saw it on TV. My mom and I were sitting there, and I threw a temper tantrum on the middle of the floor, the whole bit, kicking and screaming. I wanted to go to church. And so my calling to church has started very young. Now, I didn't understand it fully then. I just knew that he was calling me and that I needed to go. And I started walking 20 blocks every Sunday by myself at 7 years old. I had an amazing church that took me in as one of their own. And wouldn't it be for God and them, then I don't think I would really have faith at all. They were the first ones to show me that love, to show me who he is, and his love really is. He was just flowing through them, but it was different just because I really didn't understand it. I knew the feelings that I can relate to, the same feelings now, but they actually mean something now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it showed, it's crazy how different it can be, because all the same stuff's taught the same, it's said the same, all the same words are there, but it's in here and in here. So, I mean, it's drastically different, to answer it short.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just those first blocks, but that's amazing that you felt that draw and you were walking all that way as a child, and that's amazing.
And now you have the knowledge to put with the feeling, so it's all tied together. That's awesome. Praise God.
Yeah, absolutely. He works amazingly, and his whole, even like today's sermon, like Jake was saying, God will work in different ways, and he'll pull us to him, It's not the person that does it, it's God, so.
Amen.
Is there a sermon or a Christian leader or pastor that the Lord really used in your life in an especially powerful way?
I would say so, yes. It goes back to when I first started going to church at that young age. The pastor there, her name was Glenda. She also helped take part not only in my spiritual raising, but in my physical raising as well. I was in foster care, and I was bounced around a lot. But in those early, I guess I was about 15, she saw a way to step in and help me in more than just being my pastor. She took me into her home for a whole year. I was able to live with her and go to church with her and just have that normal life that I've been so long longing for. And we still talk to this day. She's a great, powerful lady, and that whole church was just very inspirational to me, and I can't thank them enough. And him.
Yeah, that's so amazing, right? What you're saying is you really want to find a church home where it's your family. You want to become part of your church, and that's so important. That's what's going to keep you really involved and coming back to church. I mean, of course, God is what it's about, but you need those people in your life that are going to keep you stronger when you're hitting those rocks and those bumps that are gonna come after you when you fall away from church, you know. So it's so great that you found that, you know, and it kept you in, you know.
It is. I think mentorship and discipleship is so important because, like you say, life's going to come at you, and if you don't have someone in your life that you look up to help you walk through those times, then you're just at your own vices. So yeah, and that's awesome.
Exactly. It's so
later,
true.
Still 10 years later.
Right? And that's why it's so important. I know we stress it here at the church. You know, it's always important to have someone that is mature in their faith in your life and someone that's less mature in their faith in your life, because you can disciple them and you can be discipled, and that's so important.
I think that's straight out of the book of Ephesians.
Yeah,
somewhere.
absolutely, absolutely. And so the next question is for the both of you. What does it mean that our lives should be a testimony of Jesus?
Well, to me, you said something earlier that all of the things that we've done in our life, if we don't use them and they're, you know, for a purpose now, then they're just in vain. We wasted all that time. But if we can take that in our life and use it to disciple to someone else, to teach someone else to hear that and relate, then it makes it all the more worth it.
I know for me, I recall the scripture that says we're saved by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And one thing Rabbi will say, she hears me say a lot, is that we're supposed to bring clarity to the gospel of Jesus Christ, not confusion by the way that we conduct ourselves, especially in public. I mean, who we are in private is who we really are, but we may be walking through Albertsons with our cuts on, a cross on our back, and we may be the only Jesus somebody sees that day. And if we're acting and looking like the rest of the world, and I'm not saying put on the facade, be who we are, but let the Spirit lead us instead of the flesh, so that we are the light and the salt that draws people to the Lord. So let our lives be a testament to Jesus. We're in a town that I grew up in. Some people know a pretty bad reputation with me, but when they see me now, see me fat and clean and and not peeking over my shoulder, you know, that is a testament to what Jesus can do in someone's life if you open your life to Him and let Him lead you and guide you down the right path.
Yeah, so true, definitely. You know, it's very important to show that change and to, you know, let people know your story of what God did in your life. It's so true. This next one again is for the both of you. What would you say is the reason it's so important that you spend time alone with God as well as together as a couple with God?
Well, I know for me, like my alone time with the Lord is when I get ready for work, I do my coffee and my devotionals, spend time with the Word, and that just gears me up and gets me ready for the day. Like we were saying a minute ago, you never know what the day is going to throw at you. You need to be prayed up to not flesh up.
Great.
Thank you, Lord. That was
that.
pretty good.
Yeah,
That just came
that
to
was
me.
good.
You know, because, you know, you get at work, I run equipment, any kind of construction, things usually don't go the way you planned on them.
Yeah.
You know, and if I'm prayed up and in my word and recalling it, reflecting on it through the day, because I've had that quiet time with the Lord to speak to me, is so into me. You know, it says the word is the bread of life. It feeds our spirit. And go back to the analogy that you have two dogs in you, one's of the flesh, one's of the spirit. Whichever one you feed the most is the one that's going to be the most dominant. And so it's real important to spend that quiet time alone, because we have an individual, personal relationship with God, and we want Him in a corporate way too. So usually in the evenings we get home, we eat, and then we go over our own devotionals to see the other one's outtake on it, and then we do some couples devotionals and time in the Word and study it. Some days it's 10 minutes, some days it's a half hour, just however the Lord leads it. But it's real important for us to develop our relationship with God as the center and the head, and to also conduct ourselves with those that are around us. Like I say, my people pleaser personality, if I'm not careful, I'm in the ditch with the guys laughing and joking instead of being the light.
Absolutely, that's great.
Without spending that alone time with God. Yeah, I'm alone.
Right, definitely.
Well, to me, it's important to spend that time because just as much as you would spend time with any other physical person that you want to build a relationship with, you have to do that with him. If you don't have that ground and base to build on communication and actually building and strengthening that relationship, then there is no relationship. And you have to do it with yourself. And a marriage has to keep God in the center of it. So if you can't do it together, then you have to be able to come together to him and have that relationship, talk with each other, learn and grow. If not,
That's so good, babe, because I heard a sermon one time that said if you only spoke to your spouse 15 minutes a day, what type of relationship would you have at the end of the week? And so that's
Absolutely. They speak so true, I mean, like we said, it's important that time alone and that time as a couple because God brought you guys together as a couple. He
Yes.
sanctified your marriage, and so you want to make sure he continues to strengthen that marriage. So that's great. What else would you guys like to share with everyone about yourselves, about POH, about your faith, anything?
how about a quick introduction for our last member
Absolutely,
of POH?
of course. Don't want to leave her out.
No, we can't. To those of
Definitely.
y'all who don't know, this is our little one, Miss Addie Lee. Addison Lee.
Yes.
She's 4.5 months and she's our POH baby. We call her all of a sudden. Because all of a sudden she's hungry, all of a sudden she's not. Well,
all of a sudden she's happy, all of a sudden she's sad.
yeah.
Really?
That's our hang around all of a sudden.
You like that? Anything else you guys want to share? Any
Well,
final words?
just on another note, I know for me and everyone included, we're open to all walks of life. Anybody out there struggling with anything that's going on in your world, if you need prayer, just someone to talk to, if these interviews has hit a nerve with you on something you could relate to in any one of our lives, whether it's lumberjack, sis, pinball, Aleise, Lacey, my wife, me, reach out to us. There's a calling on your life. God wants to be a part of your life, and we'd love to help you in prayer or any way we can support you. We're open to people helping us in the ministry, so if you feel like that's a calling on your life, reach out to us. You could be the difference that it makes in someone's life. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys all for tuning in and watching, and we hope you have a blessed Sunday.
Yes. Bye. Love y'all.
Bye.